What's up, everybody? We are here in the studio with the one and only John Caparulo. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
No, thank you for coming down.
Absolutely.
You've been moving lately. Like, you've been moving on the road and doing a lot of shows, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, it's I'm still trying to get like back into the swing where I was when I used to do the road all the time, because we moved to Vegas in 2018, May of 2018. I had a residency show at Harrah's, and the pandemic thing killed all that. So I've been trying to get back on the road since, and yeah, it goes in like little intermittent, spurts, and so it's weird. Once you're on the road, it's
up and down.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what happened at the Harrah's? They completely stopped, or?
Yeah, it was let's see, it was March of 2020. They everything was like, oh well, we're going on hold until April or May or whatever, and it just
nobody knew what was happening.
Yeah, it kept extending. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I knew when it started. I was like, this is a permanent condition.
Yeah.
But it started like that, and I think it went. It was like over a year. It was like 14 months. We went on that sort of, we'll call you. Basis, and then it was May of last year when they finally said, yeah, all right. So because they cut out a bunch of shows that had been around for a while, so mine was nothing to get rid of. So yeah, so
that's crazy.
So, went back on the road.
How long were you down there for?
All totaled, let's see, I started in May of 2018, went to March of 2020, so almost 2 years.
2 years.
But the way I started out was I did 3 nights a week because I used to split the weeks with Tom Green. Actually, I did like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I think. And I did it like that for the first like 6 months, and then after that I moved to like I was doing 6 nights a week through 2019, and like no opener.
Wow.
Wow. So yeah, it was kind of cool at first to get a break. But we went through 2019 like that, and then we moved back to like 5 nights a week in 2020, but that was only 2.5 months. So yeah, since then I've been just basically I use the airport here. It's pretty much it's just a different airport than before. So yeah.
That's crazy. Do you coming out of COVID, is like the show experience different, harder to get shows, I guess I should say, like booking?
It is. I mean, you have a lot of we still have this. Like I was supposed to go to Columbus to do it was like a theater that I hadn't done before. And it was like maybe 10 days before the show was supposed to happen, because I was doing Columbus on the Friday, and then I was going to Pittsburgh on Saturday. And we'd already booked everything, like hotels and flights and everything, and then like 10 days out, the Columbus theater just went, so we're not going to do the show, because and they were just like, some people had COVID and stuff, and I'm like, okay. So they lived, right? Yeah, it's like, I mean, if they got Ebola, I'd have been like, you know what, I'm not coming. I don't want to be there. But I mean, if it's like, oh, a few of us got COVID, and I don't know if they expected me to go, oh, totally makes sense. Yeah. I'm just gonna eat that plane ticket, and I didn't want to do the show anyway. So right. And I'm like, and that's like a blanket excuse you can use for everything. You just go, I mean, you don't want to do anything. It's just like COVID. Yeah, but COVID. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't want to go to a party? COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
Don't feel like going to work today? COVID. I think I need a week off.
Did you get the vaccine? Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, I know. That's
All right, did you get the vaccine? Are you vaccinated?
No. You know what? My wife went and got it because she had to go. She wanted to go to some concert in September. But I mean, I assume I kind of like I'm waiting, until
it's figured
somebody
out.
shows up at my door with a rifle, which isn't far off, of course. But I just figure, it's one of those things like I assume there's going to be a point where I'm going to have to get on a plane.
Yeah.
But until then, it's like
We had Dan Sperry was on here, and he said that anybody that's got a vaccination has a butt story. Like, I got vaccinated, but I had to because I needed to do this.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad that it's down to the point of where, like, I got the vaccine, but I had to because I wanted to go to a concert.
Right. Yeah, it's like no, trust me, I think it's bullshit too. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, all right, cool. As long as I didn't think you were running out there because you thought you were gonna. Yeah, it was for safety's sake.
So your wife got it just to go to a concert.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she, you know what? She got what was it? Was it 2 doses or 3?
I think it's 3.
I think it was, yeah.
I think it's 3.
Is
yeah.
it 3? Yeah. Okay. Because I remember after she got the last one, she wasn't she was sick. Like
really,
for at least like a whole night, like where she was like really worried about what it was doing to her.
Wow.
And I mean, before she was worried about going to get it. I'm like, really? Do you really need to go to the... I mean, you could listen to it on your stereo.
She's seen.
It was it was like a weekend festival.
Okay.
That like had a bunch of people that people that I'm too old to give a shit about that that I don't want to fuck up their names or something and sound even worse. So it was one of those. It was a big festival, a lot of big artists and stuff like that. I mean, it was a big concert, but still,
yeah.
Is it really worth?
That's crazy.
Is it worth fucking with your DNA over it? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. You want to? I mean, we're done having kids. So, go ahead. Hey, go ahead and listen to some jams, dude. Yeah. Oh boy, I hope it's worth it.
Go enjoy your concert.
The whole it's such a crazy thing that we're doing right now with this vaccination and unvaccinated and I've noticed that it hasn't really happened to the comedy scene too much yet.
As in, well,
not here in Vegas, anyways.
That's the thing too is like like the show I was supposed to do in Columbus. They were, before they shut it down, they were making it like mandatory for anybody who had tickets to be vaccinated or to show like a negative test. And I'm like, and I hated that my name was being attached to that because I'm like, I don't care. Vaccinated. Yeah. I don't have. I shake a lot of hands, and somehow with sanitizer,
imagine being back.
Somehow I've managed to survive, and it has. I've had a few. I remember in Denver, that club required
I can see that.
The vaccine.
We're from Colorado.
Yeah, we're originally from there.
Right. So, it's like, it's not as much, but it's trickling in there. Yeah,
where's the most like lenient place you've been to?
Most lenient place has been
on the COVID stuff.
I would say.
Can I get you pull the mic up real quick?
Oh yeah, sure.
You can move it. It's fine.
It's been probably not Texas. I was in. Let's see. I was in Oklahoma and Alabama. Both those places were pretty, and Florida. I'm going to Tampa again. I think next week or the week after.
Nice.
And they're, I don't think they ever had like shutdowns like where it was like, I mean, they had some people stopped coming. It was their choice, but it was like, it wasn't like a state mandated sort of thing.
Yeah, because we have a good friend of ours. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he does like competitions and stuff. And he went down there like right when everything happened, and he was like, there was like right when we shut down, and he was like, there's nothing, no masks, nothing like that.
That's the thing too. Is like, well, because I mean, being here, because what it was like, we had to wear masks for a while, and then they gave us like, I think it was, I want to say it was like it was maybe was it summer 2020. Like, it was a few months after the mask mandates. It was like, they gave us about, like, maybe 6 weeks here, where it was like, all right, it's cool. You don't have to wear it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, and then right after, and ever since then, we've been, everywhere, every public place, mask mandates again. And so then when you go to other cities, there's, because you're used to the airport. The airport is real strict, obviously. And then you get off the plane, though, and you kind of have to feel it out. Because, I mean, I land and I go straight to, like, a grocery store or something like that. And, I mean, I walk in putting my mask on. And I'm like, Oh wait, everybody else has a face.
Just
okay.
in case.
Yeah. I think I'll just slip this down. And sorry. I came from Vegas. And, you know how the disease is passed around there. A lot of germs.
My wife and I went to Utah on a little trip, and like you go into the grocery stores there with a mask on, and they're looking at you like,
Why
are you wearing a mask?
Yeah, right.
That one guy got mad at us. We went up, did a fishing trip up there, and we came back and like we stopped at the gas station. We put our masks on. We walk in. He's like, "Take that mask off, brother." He goes, "You're gonna rob me. I want to know who's robbing me." I was like, "So better yet, you want to know who you're gonna shoot?" Okay, cool.
I still feel like that every time I get out of the car too. Like because I always put on like a gator mask, so it goes over my head, and you put it on, and it's like, and I literally feel like, all right, you get the vault. I'm gonna. Why do I join this for? It's so stupid.
It's weird, right? Going into the bank, putting a mask on.
It is. Because I remember a time, kids, when that would be looked down upon, and it's like, man, it's ridiculous. It really is. And when you go and if you fly at all, I mean, it's so locked down. I mean, the airports have always been like that. I mean, it's been like that since 2001.
Yeah,
we're used to just basically not. You fork over all your freedom.
I say there's no rights when you get an airport.
It's like you go in the airport and saying, okay, so get naked, right? Is that right? So that was hard to get used to, actually putting something on when you got to the airport instead of stripping everything off to make sure it didn't have explosives in it. But it's a nightmare. But as far as the comedy world. Yeah, I've noticed like the audiences are pretty, they're pretty relieved, at the end of it, like, cause I do a lot of, at the top of my set now about all this with COVID and the restrictions and everything. And, and I think for the most part, people are, they're just so sick of it. And they're just so like, man, and they're really happy like at the end of it. Cause I still do meet and greets and everything after the show. Cause I mean, why would you could just watch me on YouTube if you don't want to, if that's all you want out of it. It's like, I'd rather, take a picture and say hi and stuff like that with my audience afterwards. And, they're always really, they're really happy and relieved that, that there's to just experience some normalcy again, because a lot of them, they'll still ask when they come up, like, do you want me to wear a mask? I'm like, no, please don't wear a mask. Just, feel free. Just, let's take a picture.
Let's act like human beings.
Put your mouth in the picture. It's fine. I want you to. But it's, so it's, but I think that's part of what comedy's job is too, is to, they kind of call bullshit on stuff and vent the frustrations I think that we're all having. And
definitely,
this is obviously the frustration that we're all dealing with for the most part right now. So yeah.
You know what the craziest thing about it all to me though is, 'cause like that's what most people look to comedy for, but the amount of people that are getting offended by comedy right now.
Yeah.
And when you're cracking jokes or talking against the mandates and all this stuff like that, people, automatically want to cancel you.
And you know what? And that's part of it too. I mean, because you do feel that, like, it's weird because like after the show, generally like the people I talk to, they're really like, man, I'm glad you talked about that. I'm glad, I feel the same way or whatever. But still, while I'm talking about it, there is. There are some people, who are applauding and laughing. There are other people who are like, I don't know. I bet that guy over there doesn't like it or what, we're still getting, and that's not just with COVID. It's like, we're getting more and more conditioned, I think, in our culture, except for Republicans, but it's, I think we were getting more, and don't take that the wrong way. I think Democrats suck too, but I think that we're getting conditioned to kind of be offended on other people's behalf, and worry about like, well, if I'm not personally offended, I bet somebody around here is, and I got to worry about them and their feelings. Yeah. So it's and not that empathy is a bad thing, but it's like,
afraid to laugh for the sake of who's around.
We become very tightly wound.
I don't think that's necessarily a good road to go down at all. That's a dangerous road.
It's not. And it's a road we've been going down even before all this. Yeah. I think it's been building for a while, and it's, and it's something that has affected just a lot with comedy and everything, because it's like, I mean, I'm somebody who, I like to think I've always been. I've tried to be pretty conscious of, like I don't dismiss like certain, like, if there's, like if a group feels persecuted or left out of it, I don't dismiss that because it's, oh, well, it doesn't directly affect me, so you're just imagining shit. No, I acknowledge that it's real, but I also feel like, when it comes to comedy, it's like, we have really done a lot of, especially the past decade, man, really eaten into a lot of like, where you can go with a lot of stuff, because it's and I think I have a restrictor plate in my head that wasn't there before, that I go, well, I can't talk about that. Or if I do talk about something, I have to sort of sugarcoat it a lot more than I used to.
You have to be really conscious of what you're talking about.
And I think that's what, with comedy, it's like, that's especially stand-up comedy. It's the honesty and the way that we're, we as comics are able to go on in front of a room full of strangers and really vent our honest feelings and what we feel. And it's like, when you start taking that away, it's like the elephant in the room doesn't go away, but our ability to acknowledge it is being eroded. So then it just really it waters down comedy, and it makes it a lot less fun for everybody, comics and the audience.
Doesn't say so. It takes a lot of the fun out of it.
Yeah,
but I think I think I've seen a little bit more, and we've been talking to more people like comics, stuff like that, and they say that they're kind of trying to almost fight back against that. Now they're kind of getting sick of it, and they're like, you know what? Comedy's supposed to be fun. Let's go back to the George Carlin days. Let's go back to the Eddie Murphy, especially because you're more of a storyteller comic. You use your personal life as comedy.
Sure, yeah.
And it seems like so many people got scared of that, but I think that it's good now that a lot of the comics are waking up and saying, "Hey, fuck this. This is what comedy is about."
Yeah.
If you're offended, then I'm sorry.
I've always said this. As far back as I was having trouble, like I said, before all this and everything. Like I don't know if you saw the video on my Caplet series where I made a joke about Trump.
Yeah.
Woman threw a glass at me, and it's like, man, like if you're going to a comedy show, and I've said this for a long time, you're probably gonna hear some shit you don't agree with.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just that's the
don't go to a comedy show if you're offended.
And it's like, if you're that sensitive about, you can't have your just particular set of values or beliefs, you can't have them at all challenged. Really,
yeah, you should not be there.
Yeah, don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't.
So what happened exactly with that? Because I saw the video.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happened was, before that, I was doing my series Caplets, which was, if you've watched it, we're starting it up again, actually, from here in Vegas. But
nice.
What I was doing was, every 30 days, I was, trying to do a new set. Basically, instead of putting out a long special, I was putting out like singles. Like I was putting together short sets like I would on like the Tonight Show or whatever. But I was able to be uncensored and everything. And,
able to put out more content that way.
Right. So it was a lot less refined. So it was like stuff that I basically wrote on the way to the show, and I would just go out and do it on stage. So it was hard anyway, trying to keep all that stuff straight in my head, like the way I wanted to do it, the way I wanted to present it. And so as I'm getting ready to go on that night, I think I was like 8th or 9th or something like that in the lineup, because it was in Hermosa Beach, California. It was like South LA. And there were several comics on before me, and I remember, like, after the first comic went up, they were saying that there was a woman in the front who they just weren't sure about. She hadn't done anything like that. They said that they could kick her out for, but like they said, just be mindful.
She's being a problem
there, and I didn't know what that meant. And I remember 2 comics before me, Arsenio Hall was on, and I remember he was talking. He was doing some bits about Trump, about how you've been on The Apprentice and stuff like that. And I remember this woman was kind of, heckling him a little bit, but still.
So she was a problem
they left
the whole
her there.
night.
Yeah, they didn't get rid of her. And this was a club that, it was very, it was known for its professionalism. So you would think, okay, if she was a real problem, they'd get rid of her. But anyway, so I go on stage finally, and, and obviously I'm doing a bunch of new stuff, trying to keep straight in my head. I'm recording for my series, and it's like, so I had written the joke on the way. My wife laughed at it, so I knew. I was like, oh, she never laughs at me. So I'm like, this is hilarious. So I got to do this one. And the joke was basically, it was talking about, architecture and how I don't appreciate architecture as much as I should. And I was talking about how, because I was talking about the St. Louis Arch, and I was talking about the Washington Monument, how I said, a lot of people think the Washington Monument looks like a dick, but I thought they were reserving that for Trump's monument. And, I don't even think Trump would get mad at that. And also this woman just erupts. Like, she was with another woman. They were probably late 50s, early 60s. I don't know. But the woman just, the one woman next to her, she just gets up and leaves. Like, she was like, I've had it with you guys talking shit on Trump, because apparently he's, a lot of people's Lord and Savior.
I've had it with you making jokes on a comedy show.
Right. Like, it was just her moment. She was like, all right, I'm done. I can't believe I would come to a comedy show and have people make fun of the president. Oh my God, that never happened. So, and then the woman who was with her, she just erupts. She stands up and she just starts barking at me. She said she was on rapid fire. Fuck you. It was
Jesus.
She went, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And after the third one, I'd reached my limit with that. I was like, no, fuck you, stupid. And then we proceeded to get into, because I was pissed because, I was like, I'm doing a show here, and it's not like everybody else was silent. I was doing well. I was having a good set, and she just decides, well, her political beliefs are more important than everybody else in the entire room. The show,
enjoying
everything.
it,
right? And it's like so everything had to come to an absolute stop because she was mad, and so she starts cussing me out, and then and finally, I think what my line was that made her snap completely was I was like, yeah, all right, bye, go ahead. And I said, and on your way out, remember, you can suck my balls. And that's when she picked up a glass and threw it at me. And if you watch the video too, I didn't move a muscle. Like, I just watched it hit me. And
have you seen it?
I think you showed me, right?
It's impressive how I
Where
really
did she
had
hit
no
you at?
flinch. It just kind of it hit me in the belly, which
Okay.
best spot to go. It was just like, and it
Are you on right now?
It hit the ground, but
We're gonna show the listeners what we're talking about.
Of course. But yeah, it was so yes, it hit me, bounced off.
Did it hurt?
Nah, it didn't hurt. It was just, obviously it was something that was just.
Is that the first time anything like that has ever happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've never had anybody throwing shit at me. I've had a few people. And very rare, because I'm not usually somebody who I don't really upset people that much with it. Yeah. I cuss a lot, but it's not really that. It's number 36 on Caplets, actually, if you want to.
Caplets?
Caplets 36, I think, if you look it up. But yeah, it's the worst thing was that she walked out and nothing happened to her.
Just ETS.
There we go.
36.
Oh, that's number one viewed right there, huh?
Yeah. It's a popular one.
Okay, here we go.
I think it's a few minutes in.
Let me screen record.
A couple minutes. Yeah.
Sorry if that hurt anybody's ears. This thing was cranking.
Full screen. R. All right.
You could probably
say it's
yeah, it's about there. Try there.
Right around here.
It's fairly early. And actually, there
up close.
So how long ago did you film this?
This was 2017 early. It was right after you got inaugurated. Maybe, about a month later.
It's better than anybody else's fucking arch, but
Probably skip ahead a little bit.
it looks like somebody sat down
right around here.
a giant fucking
Okay.
McDonald's and was like, I'm bored. I just quit. Or maybe make a metal detector for a fucking giraffe. Come on through. Boop. See, you left your cell phone. I know it's shit like that's always lost on me. Like, I know I'm supposed to appreciate certain architecture and shit like that more than I do, but I don't get it. Like the Washington Monument. I'm like, somebody got paid to design that shit? It's a fucking pencil. I mean, that's it. It's just a big fucking cement pencil. Some people think it looks like a dick, but I think they're saving that design for Trump's monument.
There it is.
No, fuck you, stupid. All right.
So that's the one that left there.
Yeah.
What are you, his fucking mom? Get the fuck out of here. Oh, God. Am I the first one to dislike Trump? Oh, my God. I must have invented disliking Donald Trump. Hey, on your way out, remember, you can suck my balls anytime. Fucking break up my show, lady. You know what? You come up here and do this shit and yeah, I will go fuck.
Jesus. Oh, I would have chucked the stool.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought better of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't, but yeah.
That hurt a little bit. All right? I'll admit
So,
that hurt. And see, right now, this is like.
That's. She was a bitch all night.
I heard she was a bitch. But
What was it like continuing after that?
That was the thing. What I was. If you watch the whole thing, and which we don't need to here, obviously, but it's what I was proud of it from a professional comedic standpoint was, because it really got crazy in there because everybody was really mad at her. She walked out, and obviously everybody's like, "What the?"
The energy shifted immediately,
and it really, it's like at that point, like kind of like the show's over almost. Like it's like, yeah, we're not having fun anymore. This isn't cool. But what I was proud of is like, I ended up basically regrouping and finished my set and brought up the next guy. I mean, there were still 2 comics after me, and
the night went smooth.
And we continued. So
that's awesome.
I was proud from that standpoint that because that's like I'd never had that happen before.
Yeah.
It's an awful circumstance to have happen when you're, a performer, even when you're not recording or all the other stuff that I had going on.
That too, like when you get in any sort of like altercation, your adrenaline kind of starts pumping too. So you got to kind of.
And that was kind of like, when I got off stage, the club management is like, so she left, but somebody's watching her down the street. Do you want to press charges? And at the time, I was like, nah, I don't want to see her again.
Yeah.
And, but it's still, in retrospect, it was, I was like, why did they let her just walk out? Like if she broke a lamp, like wouldn't they be mad and like have the cops come? But it was like, she hit me and they were like, yeah, you're on your own. And I was like, what the hell, guys? So
she definitely assaulted you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, but the problem was, it was like, the worst part of that, I like I said, I was proud of how I handled it. I was, but it's, it really, that ended up like kind of ruining my relationship with that club actually. And that club, I had been going there for a dozen years at that point.
What club was it?
It was Hermosa Beach Comedy and Magic Club. They have new ownership now, I think. But
what caused to go south though? Like
it was, what it was. It was like at the time of like the owner, I think he was really nervous about the clip being posted online or anybody see, because he was worried about it making
obviously
going to
go viral.
Yeah, and it was like, and I was like, to me, I'm like, well, dude, it's not going to make your club look good. It just makes her look bad. Nobody's going to hold you accountable for that. And then, but it was, and I think like, for me, it was like, I said to him, because I remember he wasn't there then. I was just talking to him on the phone. And, I was like, well, look, we won't post it. We won't put the episode of Caplets up until after you've seen the video. Because I thought once he saw the video, he'd be fine with it. And that, but then things moved fast on that and ended up on TMZ like within 2 days.
Shit.
And, I think he was, of course, he was mad because, I had told him I wouldn't post it online. Not on there, but I also, I was like, well, I mean, if I'm on my own as far as pressing charges, then I'm kind of on my own as far as what happens to the clip, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
And I just felt like it was, but I hated that because I had a great relationship with that club, and they really, they treated me like a son for a long time, and it sucked that things got messed up from that. But I still, from an artistic standpoint, I was proud of how I handled it. I thought I did I thought I handled it how you're supposed to.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like a lot of guys would have probably tossed the chair.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. A lot of people said that to me.
Absolutely
They're like, why didn't you throw the stool? I'm like,
Yeah.
because I'm not a stool throwing kind of guy. And I'm not, I mean, the moment there, because as a comic, in order to keep sort of control of the stage and the room and everything, you kind of have to, like, so if somebody, somebody heckles you or something, they if they shoot you with a gun, you got to come back with a cannon sort of thing. That's how you keep control.
Yeah.
So in that moment, she throws a glass at me, and my immediate reaction it was like, all right, I gotta top that basically, and it's like I pick up the stool, but then I'm like, and I'm like, don't be stupid.
Your comic reaction kicked in,
right? And it was more of a comic reaction than a violent reaction because I don't have that one, and that's why I stopped myself anyway. I was just like, I would never do that. Plus, it would end up. I most likely would have hit somebody else too. And that's just So I'm glad I handled it with comedy. Versus,
because you don't seem to be the kind of comic that does like a lot of crowd work stuff though.
Mm-hmm. No, I've never been that way. It's not something that I get into anyway. Yeah, I'm generally a guy who's just sort of one that I'm sort of venting my own frustrations on stage and I feed off the energy of the crowd, but not in a sort of a direct way where it's like, it's almost like I'm conscious of them there because it helps me with the energy, but it's not conscious as in it's a back and forth conversation sort of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think it was handled very, very professionally.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that happened. I mean, that's
it's one of those things that, it's one of the, I'm 50-50 on, I probably am 51-49 that I wish it didn't happen because it's like I don't need the drama, but I was proud of it in the sense of like I said. So
I mean, just so you know, the joke was funny because like I mean we're pretty center right wing, but we supported Trump as well. So I mean, like I still thought it was a fucking funny joke.
Hilarious.
Right, and that's the first time I heard it. Why,
I was cracking up laughing when the first time I saw that clip, and then like I saw the lady get pissed off, and I'm like, this is the problem with left and rights people.
Right,
you guys get too extreme with shit.
You get too invested in that because it's like I'm like I'm down the center as much down the center as you can because I think buying into either side is just it's a little bit. I just think you're destined to get hurt at some point.
Yes,
I have to say after this last election and everything that's going on, and after since 2016, I would say that like I finally was like they're both fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be like I don't even know if in the center, but like as far away from all of it as possible.
Yeah.
And I could agree with this guy says. I could agree with that guy says. But at the end of it, it's a big fucking circus show.
Yep.
Right.
And for people to be fighting over it like they do.
Right.
And,
because it's like, people get so invested in that sort of like, and it's become worse and worse with the two sides being so invested in not only their party, but their candidate, because that's what it's become with Trump is like, it's because I think that there's really nothing wrong at all with conservative values or really with liberal values.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you might tend to agree one with it, but
I think you need a little bit of both. You need both to make it work.
Right. And the individuals though who come to embody them by being the sort of the nomination. It's like you can't the values are one thing, but none of them are gonna perfectly embody it anyway. They're people and they're flawed and to get that to have them represent so much like to the point where you're gonna start throwing shit at people over some guy that because I look at it that I mean because people do still get pissed off with if they're Trump supporters or whatever and I've had people heckle me over that or something like that and I'm like. Do you really think wherever he is right now, he's sticking up for you? It's like, that lady, it's like, he's not throwing shit at anybody for you. So why are you that upset? And it's like, it's fine if you lean that way politically, but the guy, he himself, I don't understand why.
And I think even like with my beliefs and everything like that, I find a lot of the jokes against the Republican side to be a lot more funny than the
Yeah.
Democratic side. Honestly, I do.
Yeah,
Because, I
because
mean,
they seem to take themselves a lot more seriously. Yeah,
Yeah, so I always crack up, you know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think Andrew Schultz has a lot of jokes and shit like that against all that, and I always crack up at all of his jokes about it, you know. But
Right,
just
right.
because I don't think you could be so stuck in one mindset that you can't appreciate anything else.
right.
And absolutely, they're both, the last two presidents have been complete clowns. So like,
Yeah.
how can you not be prepared for your comic to make fun of them? It's a fucking shit show.
Well, the last, I mean, the last two, but you know, even, you know, I think what I finally, you know, I think I bought in a little bit on, you know, with Obama, like what they were selling.
Yeah.
And then I you know, once I realized that nothing had really changed.
He's
with
just a
him.
great speaker.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. He's the type of guy that's like, you know, versus, you know, sort of the bull in a china shop shit that Trump was. You know, it's like, okay, you know, on the world stage, it's like, okay, I'd rather have Barack represent me as far as, you know, just yeah, he's a well-spoken, he's a decent person. He's not trying to alienate anybody. He's just you know, what he says seems right. But then again, at the same time, you know, we put him in office, you know, believing that, oh, he finally, you know, hope and change and all this shit.
Yep.
Not a goddamn thing changed. Everything stayed the
Eight
same.
years of the
It was
same
going
shit.
Same progression. Yeah, it's like how, you know, it's so. And that's I started really. That's when I started really, you know, well, going down rabbit holes and stuff like that online, and started to look into a lot of stuff anyway. And then with him, I was just like, man, what a letdown. I really did think that guy was, and yeah, it's like I just feel like, you know, no matter who's president, the bottom line is they're still going to go along with whatever the program was before they got in office.
Yeah.
They're not just going to let this new guy come in and just, oh, he's going to shake stuff
Absolutely.
up. Because look, the last guy, they look at it this, it's like you can either go with the program as president, or we'll drive you through Dealey Plaza with the top down.
Yep.
It's like you got choice one or two, all right? It's like that's what's gonna, because when the last guy had tried to do that, yeah, that's what happened to him.
Yep.
You know, so,
A lot of
yeah.
people seem to not realize that the president's just a face for the government.
Right. And it's yeah, he's the new
Puppet.
front man that they put in, but it's like all this machinery was in motion before he took office. So it's like, he's just going to come in, all right, now I'm going to shake shit up on behalf of all my friends. And no, it's not. That's not going to happen. It's, and that's, yeah, it's, I think it's
crazy.
it's become very obvious. I think that, you know, ever
It
since,
has.
I think the internet now,
ever since Kennedy, it's like, look, you just might as well play ball here.
with
dude.
how fast everything moves on the internet and everything, and I guess the younger generation, as much as I hate the younger generations, including myself.
That's deep. All right.
No, it's a bunch of, they're just very easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to grow up in a very small town without the internet. You know,
Okay.
like our shit was like, we had internet, but it was like dial-up was faster than what we had.
Right.
So we never really got caught up in any of the movements.
Now,
or anything that
what
was
year are
happening.
we talking here as far as when that was?
Oh god, that was from early 2000s to about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So,
all right.
so like all the stuff that was happening, really, like when everything started catching on and this and that. That's I never really got involved in any of it. So now that I guess now that I'm a little bit older and starting to understand everything, and even still, like I tell people all the time on the podcast, I'm fucking stupid. You know, like I'm not stupid enough to really have a decision on any of this. But I am smart enough to know that everybody that is buying into the crap that goes on is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it really, I think it's a sign of intelligence to recognize how stupid you are, because it really, because I mean, you know, I think the people who are most convinced of how right they are or how smart they are usually the dumbest people in the room.
Absolutely.
You know, because they couldn't possibly fathom something outside of what, you know, their worldview could, you know, they just couldn't possibly exist, or that couldn't possibly be right. And it's like, yeah, if you have a little bit more of a broad perspective, yeah.
You have like young kids now trying to tell you what they think the president should be doing and stuff like that. It's like, you're like 15.
Yeah.
They do like voting systems in school. Like we have, you know, little cousins and stuff like that. And they come over and talk to us and they're like, I think Biden's going to be good. And I'm like, you're 14.
Right.
Well, Trump's mean. Well, I understand that.
Right.
But you know, like who would, I was like, okay, so like I asked her one time, my little cousin, I said, if you could vote for somebody, who would you vote for? I'm like, she's like Kanye. I'm like, well, that's the exact reason why I think 18 is too young of an age to vote.
We were like, why would you vote for Kanye? She's like, well, he makes good music. Jesus. Jesus Christ.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. In just a few short years, you're going to be able to do that.
Like, just so you know, Trump used to be like one of the #1 hit television shows just as well. So
right. Well, I mean, I think that started as far back with Reagan. You know, I mean, Reagan was like that because when I was a kid, I grew up with, I mean, that's the first president I can really remember. I turned 5 in 1980, but it's still like, I don't really remember much of the Carter presidency. So Reagan was my entire, I mean, because he was on so much, it was like, he was more than any other president with all this, because that was back before, like when you only had like network television and that mattered. And that fucker would interrupt, he would interrupt Alf and cheers and shit like that all the time. Like you'd be watching your favorite and it'd be here we go with the president again. And he's always on that, talking to us from the Oval Office. But that's what he was perfect for, because he was a perfect puppet, really, because it was like, because he was really good at delivering his lines. He had a very,
like Obama.
He had a grandfatherly quality to, in a different way, but same sort of thing. He's well spoken, and he had, for kids who are naive, or just anybody else who's that naive to sort of buy into, because I feel like that's why a lot of people, especially my generation, look back at the 80s as such a it's almost like the generation before looked at the 50s, like where it was like this sort of this utopian sort of everything was just so easy and innocent and pure then, because because that and he represented a lot of it. He kind of made it look for like I said, kids and stuff like that, look like everything was okay. I mean, he just kind of had that sort of vibe that he brought with him, and that's guys like that are good. But then I don't think anybody would get that from Trump, but or from Biden either. But I think Biden in a different way. I mean, he's creepy in his own way. But,
I don't know how. I just don't think that anybody wants the job anymore, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like if you actually thought about it, like this last one, I think like one of our early episodes, we had a joke on here, and I was just like, I was like, like if you actually think like this is the best we can do.
Right. With the two guys that you look at, you like, really? Like, really? Like, and it's supposed to be, especially like with the way technology and everything, it really is a youth dominated culture that we are. But then, you have two 70-something-year-old men competing for the highest office, and it's like, really, like that's the best they could come up with, because it's not us coming up with it either. That's why I don't understand people getting so invested in it.
Guys like Elon Musk in the world, and this is who we get as our president.
Right.
The other big issue though is like with the internet, and again the youthful minds and stuff like that. You have people that are like, Joe Rogan for president. And you're like, no, like you're going to end up with another Donald Trump. Like when you get actors and stuff like this, and people that aren't supposed to, he's smart enough, but you know how easily manipulated the audience can be. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of it is too where,
and I think the internet causes a lot of that manipulation.
Absolutely.
I also think, we've come to the point too with your most famous people are the people they would pick like that. I think, most of them wouldn't want to take the pay cut.
Yeah,
obviously and it's serious. It's like, it's not something that, it's not a real desirable position in that regard. Anyway, no. I mean, I mean, unless you know how to be crooked about it, like the Clintons. So it's like, if you can make it work for you financially, why not? But it really is. I think it was Bill Hicks that had a bit about it, like where he said, when it comes to president, I mean, the person you should try to find to put in the presidential office is the person who says, I don't want that job. No, I don't. Please don't pick me.
Yeah.
Because anybody who says I want that job, is absolutely who you don't want to be in charge.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Like, whoever says, yeah, I want to be in charge of everybody is probably a total dick.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
why would you want that guy? Like, it's like, what guy, who would you want to be in charge? Like the guy who says he wants to be in charge? No, thank you.
Evil
All right?
motherfucker.
I want somebody who's reluctantly like, all right, I'll look until you find somebody better. I'll do it, but please try to find somebody else. Like that, that person might actually have a conscience and do something that's right. But people who are that power hungry, or they, of course, they're not going to.
You're never going to end up with a level-headed, genuine person.
No, not at all, not at all.
And that's the funniest thing is everybody, oh, he's going to be so good. And I'm like, you know what? Like, to be in that position of power, to actually get to that level, you had to do some crooked shit to get there. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even I think with the what was it 2016? They're starting with then with Bernie Sanders.
yeah,
Bernie Sanders was a guy that's like, the stuff that he said, I felt like most of your average voters could really identify with a lot of what he was saying. I think probably, at least with the people I talk to or know, maybe my limited, sample size of the population, I would say that a lot of more people would identify with a lot of stuff he was saying. It was seemed to be rational, seemed to be fair.
and genuine.
Yeah. And, but the thing it was like, when it came down to it though, when Hillary got the nomination that year, it really showed it was like, well, Bernie's just the same as everybody though, because why would he bow out? Just because his party said, no, you got to step aside. And it's like, you can't tell me that in 2016, he wouldn't have gotten at least a third of the votes.
Yeah.
Like, you really don't think he could have competed? Really? Like, so they take Hillary and he just goes, all right, no, you'll be fine with her. So what the hell are you talking about? Like, I thought you were on our side. And it's like, no, he's not. The party's still more important than the issues or what he was trying to, it really, it's disappointing, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's just and how controlled everything is by, like you said, celebrities and stuff like that, and getting paid, and it's scary how controlled people don't realize we are. I think, I don't know. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, I think it's well, I think when people take things at face value, I think you're already. I think it's hard to it's really hard to communicate with them when you think of it sort of like I don't know, the way I do anyway, where it's like I can't look at it like okay, because if you take everything at face value, it's like, okay, yeah, the president does this, he does what he's supposed to. It's not really controlled by, this sort of like underhanded shadow government isn't what's going to control. No, it's just what they're presenting. And if you look at it that way, then the world makes a lot more sense. Yeah. But it's, it's hard to, and I think everybody kind of has to get to their own point. You can't talk somebody into looking at it any other way until they figure it out themselves.
On their own, yeah.
And then when they figure it out themselves, then it's like, okay, then it's easier to sort of, get through to them or whatever, to have a sort of a real conversation. But
and that buys all the way down to like the smallest people in industries, even though, like, because I know, like, for us in music, when we got picked up, we got signed by a Christian label.
Okay.
And they're
I'm
like,
sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
We are definitely not Christian.
Obviously not Christian.
I was gonna say, I was like, why am I here?
So I mean, like, they signed us, they did this, they did that, and like they're like,
we were their first non-Christian band they
ever
had.
We're breaking out of the Christian industry. We're gonna be this. It's gonna be huge. Blah 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 blah. When we got to the studio, we got flowing down to Chicago. You guys are living in the studio for a month. We're like, I'm 22 at the time. You're what?
I was
17,
16, 17. Yeah.
So like, we're fucking living the dream. We're in Chicago, we're in a fucking, multi-million-dollar recording studio.
Writing an album.
Yeah.
We're living there, we're living the life. They're talking about they're going to wrap our tour bus. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And then, like, as we're in the studio, they're like, so, we wanted to talk to you guys. And we're like, okay.
Oh, here we go.
They're like, so we think for this first album, we're going to pitch you guys as a Christian band. And we're like, what? They're like, well, we want you guys to blow up really fast, and we know that we can target you guys to the Christian industry, and because of how powerful the Christian industry is, we can get you guys selling X amount of records in the first year. And we're like, but we're not Christian. They're like, no, we understand that, but just pretend to be Christian.
And that,
And we're like, you signed us as a non-Christian band. Like because we knew that there was an issue when we got out, because we had stickers in the beginning, and our sticker was, it was bright purple letters and said "Fluff my boner."
of course, yeah, right. Well, yeah, I remember that was Ephesians, Corinthians 14:25. Fluff my boner.
They approached us and they said, hey, we really like you guys, but we're getting a lot of complaints about this sticker. Can you guys maybe not sell this sticker anymore? And we're like, no.
That's our sticker.
That's like that's our biggest selling sticker.
Right.
It's a bright purple letters, "Fluff my boner," and it says "Chasing Addiction" this big on the side of it. And so when they approached us with that, we were like, dude, like, we wouldn't even let you guys pull our sticker. Why do you think that we would lie and say that we're Christian? They're like, well, do you want to sell albums or
not? Pretty much is what they said.
Yeah, and that really goes to show how much regard and respect they have for those, I guess, Christian music fans.
Yeah,
who they're basically okay with lying to, where they're just like, you know what, we're gonna sell you as that, and basically they're idiots anyway. They won't know.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
it's like, what are you doing?
It makes you wonder, like, how many bands they've lied about being Christian.
Right,
You know,
right. And if they felt so certain that it was like, okay, look, we can only we're best at marketing Christian bands, and we want to. Then why would they even sign you?
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had the same thing in the comedy where, like, I've had plenty of, like, I pretty much refuse to do anything called a corporate gig, because it always turns out terrible. Because it's like, I don't look at myself as like, my comedy's not offensive, but I cuss a lot, and it's like, and a lot of people look at my act, and they've done it since I started, where they're like, oh, what, you don't need to use those words. It's like, no, I do.
I do. It's a fucking sentence answer.
It's a mess, if I don't, because it fucks up my whole rhythm.
Yeah.
It's like I'm saying a lot instead of what I should have said, which is it's a mess. But but I've had that where it's like, I'll have like, I remember in particular there was it was a corporate gig. It was for a college basketball, like they were doing like a banquet or something. And the coaches came to the Comedy Store in LA, and they were like, they saw me after my set in the main room. They come over, they're like, Cap, dude, we're having our annual banquet for the basketball team. We want you to come up. We want you to do the show and be the comedy, the entertainment, whatever this year. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, you guys know what I do, right? And I was like, because I just come off stage. I'm like, because I do that wherever I, it's what I do. It's like, I'm not offensive, but I cuss a lot. That's what it's my comedy.
You're not going to change what you normally do.
Friendly. It isn't. It's not Christian.
Yeah.
And and they're like, cool. Yeah, we know. It's great. We love it. And yeah, they love it. But then I get there and I'm getting ready to go on, right before I got to go on in front of this, this really kind of stuffy group. And it's like, I got the guy who booked me come down and go, hey, so my athletic director's upstairs, and could you kind of cut down on a few of the F-bombs and the shits and fucks? And I'm like,
right before you're going on,
man, like, why did you hire me to do this? You knew what I did. If you wanted somebody to do something different than that, then you should have found somebody different. But that's what I do, is I go up there and I cuss and scream a little bit.
Yeah.
So what'd you do?
I bombed. With that particular night, it was a mess of a setup anyway, because it was like, I remember they had me performing from a podium. What the fuck is this?
A podium?
This is the State of the Union. This is a comedy show. But I mean, they had me up at a podium, and you couldn't even talk into the mic. It was just feeding. It was a nightmare. I was just disruptive. I mean, it was all it was. So I maybe did. I did like 10 minutes, and then I was like, hey, let's bring up the guys who booked me, and just give them a round of applause. Bye. And I left. But I've had some of those turns. The last one I remember, I had did a corporate gig for it was Ronnie Lott, the San Francisco 49, the Hall of Fame round of football. But he did like a charity golf, or it was like a celebrity golf thing every year or something like that, and had me come up for that. And I was at a country club. It was open air, outdoor, and that was long story short, I ended up crying in front of Marcus Allen. So it was it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was
So that was your last one,
It's one
huh?
of those things that really shows you, especially in comedy, it's like it doesn't really matter where you think you are as far as, all right, I'm a grown up now. I've gotten past certain stages of my career, and you are not above eating shit in front of a crowd of strangers and then crying in front of a Hall of Famer. So,
Oh man,
it was a tough night, man. It's a tough night.
how long ago was this?
2015.
2015.
Yeah, so
okay.
it wasn't long enough to go. Remember back then? No, it was recent. I was an adult. It was.
It's a grown ass man.
Yeah,
crying.
I was past the age where that would be acceptable. Yeah, so yeah, fucking nightmare.
That's something you do in like the first couple of years of your career.
Yeah, and even then, it's like it's embarrassing, but at least you have an excuse. Like, wow, I was still growing, but I had grown at that point. I had done a couple of specials. I had been on TV, and none of those people gave a shit or gave a shit. Sorry, gived. But they, it was a situation. Was like, it just wasn't conducive for comedy. It was like one of those things where, they had somebody who was responsible for booking entertainment for the show, and that person was a big fan of mine.
Yeah.
And I remember she and her husband or boyfriend, whatever, they loved my stuff. But it was like, this black tie affair basically is what it was, because it was like a charity dinner. And, they did a dinner, they did an auction, and then after the auction, I come up and, I just remember, because I remember Ronnie Lott was a really nice guy, and he asked me to have like dinner at his table before the show, which I never do, but I was like, I didn't want to refuse it, because I was like, wait, he's a hero of mine. I was like, wow, he's invited me to have dinner with him, and I sat there and had dinner with him, and I remember I tried to dress better than I usually do which basically mean I had a shirt with buttons. And then
Okay,
nice.
All
right, I brought out the buttons. Whoa, I'm getting fancy.
That's my fancy too. So don't
and,
worry.
and I think my opening line that I got on stage and I said, I was like, the sad thing is I'm the worst dressed person here, and this is the best outfit I own. And I got crickets, and I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna suck. And it was rough. It was rough anyway. And then I felt like it took maybe 10 minutes. I felt like I finally got like sort of a core group of people who were into it. Rest of the people in the back of the room were kind of doing, they were talking amongst themselves, getting food, whatever. And I had this sort of core group listening to me. I was like, all right, I'll ride it out with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then some drunk trust fund douche from Ireland in the back starts heckling me. He just starts yelling, "You suck! Get off the stage!" And I tried to ignore him the first couple of times, but then it just started again. He's like, "You suck! Get off the stage!" And I went, "Don't you think I would if I could?" I said, "I'm getting paid to be here. Do you think I came for the warm fucking reception?" And I'm saying this, and right after I said that, I look and there's a 12-year-old girl right here. I'm like, shit, this is awful. And so I proceed to get into because instincts took over. Because I'm used to being in a comedy club where it's like somebody throws a glass at me, I tell her to suck my balls, and we're
Absolutely.
done. So I'm doing that there, but it doesn't work as well.
Yeah,
in that setting, because it was like they basically treated it like, because this guy was like, he was a drunk mess, but he was also he was a donor, to their charity, whatever. He literally was like, I think he he owned a winery or a vineyard or something over in Europe that they inherited or some shit. Like they had warned me about him even before the show, and he was just so I remember like they were like, I remember some guy coming up and giving me the light, like he just kept like giving me, and I'm like, I finally snapped at him, I'm like, dude, I see the light. You're 6 feet away from me. Can I get off stage under my own power instead of when that guy tells me to get off stage? Like, can you at least give me that dignity? And I mean, I'm literally having a meltdown in front of these people because it's like,
Yeah.
'cause that's what comedy is really. You're just up there bearing your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it just doesn't fit for that setting.
Yeah.
My comedy fits when you come to a comedy club, a theater, whatever that you recognize when you come in the door, like you're coming into a sort of a house of comedy sort of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Instead of having me come to fuck up your charity dinner. And that's what it was.
Would you even say any kind of comedy would fit that kind of setting?
I can't say no because they had other comics successfully do it in years past. So it's just,
What do they tell?
Yeah,
It's like,
mean,
what kind of
yeah,
jokes
like-
are those?
crowd work, comics who do crowd work, maybe
Okay.
comics who do, who have, whether they do, whether it's magic or they have ventriloquism.
That makes sense, yeah.
Stuff that's more easily palatable for that setting.
Like children's
yeah.
comedy.
Right, basically, it's a little easier, but it is. It's just more of a.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick.
And
but-
I'm not. Yeah, right. It's just. It is kind of. It's
little more, PG.
It's safer. Is what
Yeah.
it is. And what I do isn't. It's
Safe.
just not. It's not. It's more. And it's more about me than it is about. So that's what I mean. It just doesn't really fit in that scenario. So.
Mhm.
I ended up getting off stage, like, maybe I did 15 minutes and I was supposed to do 45. And I get off and I remember I just beelined it for back where that dude was. Cause I'm like, I got to go have words with this dude. And I mean, I rolled up on the wrong guy. So like, I went up to some dude. I'm like, hey, what the fuck? He's like, you were good. Yeah.
I really enjoyed your set.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I'm like, what were you? And then the dude pops up and is like, it was me. And I go over and I see, and he fit the profile when he was the drunk mess who'd been heckling me. And I started like, trying to have, like, what? I'm doing my job, man. Why are you fucking with me? And he's like, hey, I'm just trying to give you some help, man. And I'm like, and I realized it was at that point, I was like, it's useless trying to communicate with this guy. He's a fuck up. And I just realized, like, all right, I got to either hit this dude or leave. And I wasn't going to hit him. So I walked out. So I and I'm like, I'm the type, it's like when I get upset about something like that, it's like mucus attacks my face. Like I just can feel it like bubbling. I'm like, and I'm just like, all right, I'm just walking to the shuttle
You
bus.
get so angry, you feel like you gotta cry.
And it's just one of those things. And I'm like getting ready to, I see a shuttle bus to take me back to the hotel, start to get on it. Right as I'm getting on it, somebody yells like, John, wait, Marcus wants to talk to you. And I'm like, and I was like, fuck. I turned around, I see Marcus, and I'm like, oh, God damn it. That's the first thing I said. Oh, God damn it. Marcus, I said, man, I think you're a great player. But I don't want to. I remember him saying like, hey, I just want to tell you, I thought you were really good. I was like, shut the fuck up. And the worst thing was too, he was saying, he's like, hey, next time a guy like that bothers you, just say, hey, if I want to hear an asshole, I'll fart. And
He's cracked a bad joke.
The worst thing is I wasn't in any position to go, Marcus, I'll write the jokes. Thank you. Because I had just fucking eating shit in front of everybody.
At that point, you didn't want to hear it.
So maybe I could stand to get some material from a former running back. So
somebody that you looked up to was really patting you on the back.
Well, he was just trying to be supportive. There's nobody who would have thought.
Is this when you cried?
Good. So it was like it was bubbling
in the moment.
So it was like if anybody talked to me or tried to talk to me there, the bubble would pop, and that's what happened. So I'm like, so I got.
It was almost one of those like you didn't care who he was, you didn't want to hear it.
It wasn't so much, but it was just even more embarrassing to think like, wow, this is
one of my heroes.
I remember the '82 playoffs when you destroyed the Browns, and I'm like, oh fuck, now I'm crying in front of you. I probably cried from that game, but man, at least you didn't see it. And terrible.
So like when you're, cause I mean you've been in it for like so long and everything like that. Like I guess you still bomb at this point in time in your career.
Well, it's always possible, yeah.
Like when that happens, like what is that? What is that like? I guess like is it usually just like bad audience? Is it you? Is it like what causes it?
It's usually it's always a combination because generally it's like, if I'm gonna bomb or if I'm gonna have a bad set, it's generally in a situation that I'm not really ready for, because especially once you get to this point in comedy, you get soft inevitably, and I hate that I feel like I have in a lot of ways. I mean, in combination with not getting on stage as much because of this COVID shit, but it's like, but just not being in the same setting, because once you start to like headline or do it, like I had the show at Harrah's, when I had the show at Harrah's, 6 nights a week, I had people coming to my show. I didn't even have an opener, so it's like I'm just doing an hour plus of, I'm the only guy they came to see, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of get used to, that sort of setting where it's like, okay, this audience came to see me, so my delivery kind of gets conditioned to that.
You know what you're doing.
Right. And so then when you go maybe to a situation where like, you're in a lineup or something like that, or if you're, in a thing that maybe when you were younger, you got more used to, because like, I would go up at the Comedy Store when I was younger and developing, and, and there'd be, 6 drunks who were just waiting for a cab or something. And, you kind of had to learn how to make the best of that situation. And, you just weren't softened by the idea of going and headlining all the time. So it's like, so there's different ways to bomb, but I think, that's what I find at this point is like, I feel like I'm not as conditioned to all the variety of settings that I used to be. So it's like I go into this situation and I just feel like I'm almost like I'm too polished for this scenario. Like after this, I'll probably run down to Wise Guys down here. They have like they have a line. They have like open mic Tuesday and Wednesday, and they let me come and pop in, and it's a great workout for me because I miss that a lot. And but it's almost like, I feel like I need to reacclimate myself to that sort of setting where, I'm on with a lot of young comics, and, and especially too, when you come up in that scenario versus when I was younger and you just go, my intro was this guy's next, now it's like, oh, we have a special treat for you or something like that. And I'm like, don't tell them that. I'm like sitting there like, no, it's not that good of I'm not going to be that good.
That's cool. You do that though. Like you still like, like at your level, you still want to go do the smaller things and, like keep that going. That's awesome that you.
Well, yeah. I always saw that when I was coming up, like, guys like Chris Rock and Dice Clay and Eddie Griffin and guys like that you still come to the Comedy Store and work out. And, it still seemed like they were still trying to get better and always trying to find a new bit, because that's what's great as a comic is finding a new bit, and doing something different. You feel like, I still, I can still do this. I can still create, and I'm not just stagnating. So.
Yeah.
So then you never like, I guess the fastest way for you, like what you're kind of saying is like bombing and stuff or anything like that is almost overconfidence of.
I wouldn't say overconfidence, because in that situation, I probably know I'm not going to be any good or whatever. It's just the lack of let's see here. You don't have to adapt as much when you're headlining, and you're just, because it's almost like you're doing,
because people know who they're coming to see,
and you're doing the same. You get accustomed to that. Like, okay, because going on the road doing shows with, the same setup, opener, middler, headliner sort of thing, and you get used to that sort of thing.
Becomes routine.
Right. And there's no real but there just really isn't much of a, people are coming to they want you to do well, and and it's versus when they see a lineup of comics, it's like, they're going to evaluate you, each person individually. And, and if they've heard of you, if they happen to heard of you or something like that, then maybe they might give you a little bit more leeway. But it's like if you played like professional basketball and you went back to, like a street ball game or something like that. And it's just a different game that you're not used to playing anymore. And, and so you can be kind of, out of sorts,
Is that why you did the? Because you said you did your caplets. You said you would write your bits on your way to the show, right?
Yeah.
Is that why you did that, to kind of challenge yourself a little bit? Or?
Yeah. Well, I did that to challenge myself and to I did 2 specials. I did Meat Cap, and my second one was called Come Inside Me. And
Come Inside Me killed me.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just so you know, that's like what.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
that was a Netflix special, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I when I did those specials, I was just disappointed with the fact that I really did. I had worked on all that material, and I felt like both hours or whatever were good, but the specials themselves didn't really stand out that much. I didn't feel like they really separated themselves from any other special you might see. Or, and I felt like I wanted to do something that was different, sort of outside the box, and sort of, invent my own sort of thing that made it, so people would have more of a reason to watch or listen or whatever to basically focus in or tune into my comedy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And, I got the idea. It was, when basically like, YouTube and things like that were, really, coming into prominence. It was around 2010, I guess, maybe is when I started thinking of the idea. And we didn't actually start doing it till 2014, but it was after, so it was like around that time, like that. I just wanted to do something different that would stick out. And I thought the challenge of it, and, I thought that would just make it more unique and more interesting.
Absolutely.
And that's why I did that. And that's why, now for the past, ever since then, I've been trying to turn myself into a cartoon character, which I thought that would stick out more.
Yeah, I think we went on to talk about that too. You got a comic book, right?
Can I go?
Yeah.
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick.
Yeah, you're good. Do you want to
Pause it real quick.
pause? Yeah, that's
All right,
good.
yeah,
I'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
All right. Sorry, guys. You know me. I always got to pee. So yeah, the comic. So it's a cartoon comic, correct?
Right. Well, I started. Let's see. I started the idea came about because I obviously I like animated shows. I like The Simpsons and Family Guy, and love American Dad and
We're
King
kind
of the Hill.
of we're nerds here too.
South
Don't worry.
Park. Yeah, I should see that, so I feel safe here. Yeah, sorry. But anyway, I came up with the idea of doing a show that was basically a cross, because I loved Louis' show, like, because I never watched live action anything. My wife talked me into watching Louis C.K.'s show.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
And I really thought it was really brilliant how he'd sort of captured the, because they were always trying to, like, I went through that whole thing early in my career with, like, development and stuff like that, development deals from, like, I had Fox and NBC, trying to develop shows basically based on my stand-up.
Yeah.
Which is always, it becomes like a real convoluted process where it's like, because, a stand-up act is generally, it's like, okay, I woke up today and this happened,
Yeah.
and that's really the perspective it comes from. And, with most, shows that they develop around comedians, it's like they start adding all these, characters and things like that that really aren't part of your stand-up act. It's just like, it just, so it becomes like, it deviates a lot from where, the original concept that I think that they were trying to base it on, and
Enhancing it a little bit.
right. It just becomes this whole mess that isn't really familiar to the artist, I guess.
Okay.
And so anyway, like when I saw Louis, I was like, wow, he really captured it. It was like, it's just basically, it's about him and his sort of struggles through daily life, and sometimes
Unscripted.
this character's in, sometimes they're not, sometimes and it was really just, so I thought, taking that concept and then putting it in the sort of like the animated world where, because that's what animation makes it so, it really expands what you can do with comedy, because you can take it a lot of crazy places, and, you can exaggerate a lot more, and just comedy can just be a lot more, you can get stupid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's and then at the same time, people were talking about me my like talent reps and stuff like that at the time were talking to me about doing another special, and I was so like, they that was around the time I came up with Capless, but it was like I was just kind of disillusioned on the idea of doing a special, and I thought because I just didn't think you know, pointing a camera at me on stage was going to be that special. It wasn't going to be anything different. And at the same time, I'd started writing, you know, my attempt at an animated show, you know, basically a cross between like Louie and Family Guy or whatever. And so at that time they were talking about, you know, doing a special, and I was like, man, it'd be great to animate the whole thing. And that's when it sort of like, hey, wait a minute, that's a good idea. And we were like, you know, it'd be cool is like if I could just basically turn my two-dimensional self, like basically the guy you saw on any screen, any special, anything like that, into if I could do that as a cartoon character. And then if you want to come see my live shows, you know, obviously you'd see me live, but anything that was, you know, so it kind of made it more interesting, and it gave it more like, you know, more stuff you could do with, say, like a stand-up special. Because I thought my whole idea was like, all right, I'll do stand-up specials as this cartoon character, and then we'll also get to follow that cartoon character into his, you know, his life. And
that's awesome.
And you know, but it's I felt like I still feel like it was a good idea, but you know, I can't draw, I can't animate, and so it's you have to find somebody who can.
So you're working with somebody for that then?
We worked with a few different people trying to get that done. We did a demo at one point. I mean, it was like, you know, a few minutes long. It ended up being just cost us like $50,000 or something. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
It was it just and.
I get you animators cheaper than that.
Well, I would love that, but
yeah, you guys hear it on the TTP. We're gonna hook Cap up here.
That's right, and you know, even now, I'd still, you know, I would like to, you know, I mean, because we're doing caplets again. I would love to be able to do, you know, basically shorts and put them on
like the caplet bits.
Basically, yeah, like have the stand up part be, you know, just use the audio from my live performance that I did. You know, have my cartoon character do it, and then we go into like a little, you know, 5-minute, 6-minute adventure, whatever, and then we come out on the other end with another like little stand-up piece for another minute. So, you know,
that'd be cool.
That's really cool. Yeah,
and so, you know, and all the time I was writing a lot of scripts, you know, pilot scripts, everything else, just trying to get like. Yeah, because I couldn't do anything else with it. I couldn't actually execute or animate it. So it was like in the meantime, well, until I could find like, you know, at the time, like I thought, well, my agent or somebody like that will get me set up with a animation studio or.
Okay.
So while I was waiting for that, I just kept writing scripts, and you know, I realized like I can't do anything with the scripts other than to just have them sit there. And a friend of mine was like, why don't you write them as a comic series? So that's when I started writing the comic book series, and then I basically would write the script for it, and then I'd send it out. I sent it out to a guy in the Philippines actually who does the illustrations. And
wow.
So we did 5 of those. You know, while I had the Vegas show, because we sold them after the Vegas show. But,
so you had physical copies.
Yeah, physical copies. I still have. You know, we have digital copies online, but it's like I've never. I'm really terrible at marketing. I am. It's awful. Like, you know, because it really should be easier than it is. But for some reason, me and my wife can't figure this shit out.
Well, it takes the digital side of everything is a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
You know, aside from what you already got going on.
Mm.
So I understand that. Because, I mean, even like this, I think as far as, because like being in a band and being like a comic, you know, you're the product, you sell yourself. Yeah. It's easy.
Yeah.
You know, you play shows, people grab attention, this and that. But like the podcast, because we're not on stage, we're not selling ourselves or anything like that. We really had to hit the digital side of everything.
Yeah.
And it's been an insane learning curve.
That's and
we're still figuring like that by all means, like we're fucking, you know, we're nothing crazy.
Right.
We're a struggling podcast, but you know,
well, it looks professional. I like it. I mean,
thank you.
But yeah. And I understand what you're saying though. It's like, and that's the type of thing that's like, we've just never been able to figure out, or maybe it just doesn't come naturally as far as like, you know, I've always been bad about the idea of like I can go do stand up, I can put on a good show, but I don't like telling people that. I don't like telling like, hey, you should come out to my show.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna suck tonight. You know, and I feel like it feels weird to me to advertise myself.
It's like, you know, in a band, you know, people are like, oh, you're in a band, are you guys good? It's like, we suck. I guess.
That's what I'm saying. Like I mean, listen, I can't imagine being like selling. It's just so weird. It feels so opposite because I'm pretty self-deprecating, you know, especially like with my material and everything. It's like, I'm not. I'm the last person to tell you how great I am because I don't think so. And
I remember the first time when we got signed, we played a show in our hometown, and they were like, hey guys, they get all the bands together. It's kind of like a pre-show thing they do, and they're like, we just want to let everybody know we now have 2 national acts on the bill, and we're like, fuck.
Us being one of them, and we're like looking
who's
for
the other band?
We're like, where the fuck are they?
Like we want to such and such and Chasing Addiction, and we're like. Oh fuck! Like if you guys want to use their photographers, this, that, we're like, and then it hit us. We're like, oh fuck, we're the other national act.
We were just a bunch of kids. Like we didn't know what was going on.
Everybody's coming up. They're like, oh man, congratulations, this, that, and we're just like, no, dude, like trust me, you don't want to fucking listen to us. We're shit. So I understand that mentality as the artist,
and I think too, like, well, that's why, like with podcasting. I mean, I've made a few token efforts, whether it's been on like a few different podcast networks. There was even a show for a little while like that we did on the Blue Collar channel on satellite radio.
Okay.
Where, because it felt like, because I mean, like, when you're in comedy, like your agents, managers or whatever, they'll hear what everybody else is doing. They're like, well, you should do that too. And yeah, it was like, when the podcast thing, when that took off, especially in the comedy world with, guys like Mark Maron. I remember when I was on his show like early on, and it's like that came naturally to him because that was, it was something he did. And I felt like that's great. And a lot of people went along with it and were successful too. But to me, it felt like it wasn't something that I would naturally want to do. It just felt like, okay, everybody else is doing this and succeeding with it. So, well, I guess I should do it too.
What time frame would you say that was, like era-wise?
That was probably around, let's see, probably around that time when I started Caplets, 2013.
Okay.
Between 2010
so
and
right
15.
when podcasts were really taking off then.
And for me, it just felt like I was just following along and I wasn't doing anything. And I wasn't putting much effort into it because I really didn't believe in it because I felt like it's not that unique. And that's another reason why Caplets seemed like an interesting idea to because I didn't feel like anybody else was doing that.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay.
I don't think a lot of people are still doing that.
No,
I think it's a great
I don't think
idea.
so. And I felt like, okay, here's something that, okay, if I need to put out stuff more frequently and kind of capitalize on the online space and everything, I felt like, okay, I'll do something different and I'll do this Caplets thing that'll sort of, take the place of whether it's podcasting or whatever, because it's like sort of my contribution to that sort of world. And then, and same thing with cartoon comic was just like, I wanted to do something that was, that stood out a little more, that kind of represented something that I did versus, going, oh, okay, so-and-so does a podcast. So
yeah. I can see that being challenging, like differentiating yourself from just being like a comedian.
Right.
And because like, you know what I mean? Like being able to create something that's super unique and different. And
yeah. And plus I'm, like what you guys are doing with this is awesome. Really. This is really cool.
Thank
and
you.
It's like, I'd never be able to put this together and I wouldn't be able to like schedule guests and shit like that. Like I'm terrible about it. I never invite people to my house.
The biggest.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's not something that comes naturally to me. And it's not really what my comedy is about. Because when I got into comedy, it was just about doing stand up and sort of, being self-expressive and you get off stage and you're done. Then social media and all that stuff came in.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I don't know how to do any
Head
of this.
spinning.
So, yeah. So, it just, so I with all these different, whether it's Caplets or it's cartoon comic or like, it's just me trying to do something that feels organic and unique and different.
and something you're enjoying.
I honestly think that you're onto something with the doing the Caplets and doing them in like a cartoon version.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool and it's unique. And I think that's an idea that nobody's doing still.
Yeah, I would love to, and it's one of those things like if I can find a way to do that in a, I guess in a way that's cost effective too, which we're able to, do just that. Like I said, produce like sort of bookend, because I do the live performance. I do record Caplets anyway, so do the live performance. We'll take the soundtrack of it and we'll, do sort of bookends with the stand up. and then do a middle, sort of adventure.
Yeah, it's
And,
just like taking
yeah.
your audio and making something out of it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really cool. It's a unique idea.
Absolutely.
Not a lot of
Right.
people are doing
Yeah.
it. I've never seen it. Not
Yeah.
for stand up. I've seen a lot of guys. I've seen a few guys. I wouldn't even say a lot of guys because I've seen a few guys in the podcast that will do snippets of their bits in a cartoon.
In a
format.
cartoon,
Right,
yeah.
That's a different thing,
Completely.
Where we're basically somebody. Basically, they illustrate what you're talking about with your bit.
But I think those are
into an
like
animated
even
form.
like unique. 'Cause I've told him, I'm like, dude, I would love to do something like that. So the fact that you're bringing that up is just that's really cool, and I think that's
Thanks, man.
something that would actually really stand out.
Absolutely.
And at the level you're at, I think that you wouldn't have an issue. But we have some people we could talk to.
Oh man, I would love that, but I it's weird. Like even after when everything shut down in spring of 2020, we I think we produced 4 of them maybe. Like we basically it was we called them we just used cartoon comic as the title, but we basically did what I did was I recorded stand up. Like that's why I got these soundproofing pads. Is I recorded myself in my bathroom doing. I wrote bits and basically just performed stand up without an audience, and then sent it off to an animator that I'd been in touch with over some other stuff, and he animated it. And it was they were actually pretty cool. And we just did, instead of like having laughs or a laugh track on there, we basically just did like a music underscore.
Okay.
So it just went with the and it was we did like 4 of those, and it's weird. I couldn't get anybody to watch them. Like it was
Really?
Because I figured, well, at least the people who subscribe to my YouTube channel. No, it was like we could. I don't know what the view count is on them now, but we did. It was hard to get like 1,000 views on them.
Really?
But then I could record myself like farting on my daughter or something, and it'll get like 50,000 views. What the hell? Like I worked hard on this thing. Like just watch it. But yeah, it's weird.
That's attention span.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. But it's just one of those things where I was like, man, just watch it for me.
I think that's why I think that you're onto something with the Caplet thing you're doing, because we've been talking about this for a while. I think that like even like bands as far as albums and stuff, I think it's going to be a thing of the past pretty soon.
Yeah.
Nobody has the attention span to listen to a full album.
Right.
That's why there's so many bands and artists now. Just they put out a single. That's
So
it.
I think before you know it, like these hour-long specials and stuff like that these guys are doing, I don't think that they're going to be a thing anymore.
Right. And I always think like, and that's one of the reasons too why I thought, the animated idea and cartoon, you're basically cartoonizing everything, because when you go see stand up live, it's an awesome experience.
It's different.
It's really fun. It's because you have to kind of be there with other people, and
You're vibing off the crowd.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
vibing off everybody around you. You feel comfortable in the environment.
and when you watch it, when you watch it on a screen, whether it's just now with on your phone or your device, whatever, or even if you watch it in your living room, you're gonna lose something there because you're not in there in that crowd. It's sort of like there's always you just lose a lot of it. You lose a lot of the experience. So it was like I wanted to do something that made it more interesting and fun and enhanced it. So it's like, okay, if we animate it, we can sort of get away with maybe pushing the envelope on just a few things. Like like with the woman throwing something that night, okay, that happened, but it's like, even if you sort of like, if you're doing animation, you can kind of, you can almost sort of write stuff like that in.
Yeah.
Just to make it a little bit more
Fun.
crazy,
And
interesting, because you can do anything with it.
Even change like what she throws or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah. You can, but you can just go a lot of places with animation.
It's infinite.
And it's just a lot more fun to watch. I just think it's really bland. Like I can't imagine sitting watching an hour special or anybody like on a screen. It's just not that. It's like I don't. You'd have to be a really hardcore fan of somebody to be into it.
Like my wife's never really like. I guess I love comedy. I could watch it on my TV. I drink beer and I crack
And
up
laugh.
and I laugh and like I'll lose my voice over a good hour special.
Yeah.
My wife's never understood it. She just looks at me like I'm fucking crazy.
Right. Wow.
So I took her down.
Yeah.
We were staying down on the strip, just doing like a little staycation thing, and I called Brett, and he's like, hey man, I'm down at Tropicana this week doing like a special, or like doing a show. Come down and check us out. And I'm like, cool man, I'll bring my wife down. She's never had the opportunity to go down and watch any live comedy or anything like that, and after we left, she's like, my face hurts, my stomach hurts. And I'm like, that is the difference. She's like, it is so much different.
Yeah.
Seeing it live.
Really
She's
is.
like, because, you know, when I'm like, when I watch it on TV, you don't get it. She's like, it's just not funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, but when you're in the venue, you're watching the comic just kill it on stage.
Right. Because
it's a whole different.
You kind of feel how it sort of is, you know, affecting everybody else in the room. Whether it affects somebody enough to throw shit is another thing. But it's like, it really does. It just does. It really is a factor that almost has to be there. Now, you can be somebody who, like you, who appreciates it enough from the perspective, you know, to watch it, you know, on a screen and still be entertained by it. But that's sort of it's not an acquired taste. I just think it's an individual taste.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But I think, I think in general, it's like, I just think that it's that's what I've been trying to, you know, do, whether it's with Caplets or the cartoon, is just try to find a way that's more interesting than just, I
like the way that the Caplets is like raw though, because you lose. There's nothing's really raw anymore. And the way that you're kind of making yourself vulnerable for that.
Yeah. And I mean, in some ways, it's like I'll watch it. You know,
do you watch a lot of your stuff back?
No, I have to watch it sometimes for the editing and go, okay, cut that out, whatever. But I watched a few of them, like, to go, okay, what did I do with that bit, or because some of it is like, it came up, like, I didn't really have a chance to refine. I didn't work on a lot of it long enough to get it. So in a lot of ways, it was like, shit, I probably should have taken more time with that one. but at the same time, I always felt like a lot of times, like, a lot of my bits and stuff like that were, I felt like they were, when they were in that raw form before they got refined, were more. It was more entertaining. I guess it was entertaining in a different way, because it was it just sort of came out in that moment and was really so I guess there's two ways it can be funny. It's like the refined sort of the bit that's been polished, and then the way that came out the first night or whatever. So that's
the difference between, like, you know, your full special and your these are like when we're rehearsing and writing a shit song in the garage.
Right,
you know? And then when we go play a show, they're like, "Oh my god, these guys are amazing." I'm like, "Well, it took 200 songs to get that one song." So.
Right, but it is, if you're interested in enough, like, of the, I guess, the craft, and appreciative enough of the art form, it's like, it's like something that's cool to watch.
That's like our rehearsals, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Absolutely.
So, like, do you think that married kid, right?
Yeah.
Or just one kid?
Yeah.
So how long have you been married?
We've been married for 10 years. Well, we're going on 10 years.
Well,
It'll be 10 years
congratulations
on,
for that.
May 27th.
That's rare these days.
It is.
Did comedy change for you after you got married?
Not really comedy. I guess just my experiences. Just in general, like, the way I look at the world, the things that I talk about obviously are different, and but I guess just everything, just life and growing changes your perspective.
Absolutely.
So not just marriage, but it's part of it. You know?
Yeah.
A little bit.
You kind of realize that there's a little bit more out there sometimes.
Sometimes, a little bit, It's
it's not all about the partying and having fun.
Sometimes, like, I catch myself and I'm like, man, I don't complain enough. It's like, because it's like maybe I'll complain more when my daughter's older or somebody, but she's at the 6.5. I mean, it's like my best pal, and it's great. So it's like there's really, I just talk about I love that kid. It's not that funny, but I love that kid, and so changes everything.
Absolutely,
just life in general. I think at least it should. I mean, I think when I was younger and I would watch some comics who were maybe my age now, there were some that who sort of their comedy grew with them, and then there's others who you could tell it did.
They're still in that partying.
They were older, but they were still trying to sort of capture
their 20s.
The perspective that they had, and they're trying. It's like, dude, it's weird.
Yeah,
it doesn't work out.
Yeah. So I think but I think it comes down to the individual comic, how much I try to capture as much of my genuine experience as I can.
That's awesome.
Comic, so
because like for me, like writing music and anything like that, lyrics, like I have to be pissed off
Yeah.
or something like that. So
Yeah.
like, you know, like I thought I was an alcoholic, and I just realized I was in a shit relationship before I met my wife.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like, you know, there was a lot of things that like happened, and you know, all the songs I wrote, well, after I found my wife and I got married and everything like that, I couldn't write.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years now, you know, and
You don't have angst anymore. You're not mad at anything.
Like I could write the fuck out of a country song now, a good beer drinking
Or
song.
Christian song. You should
Yeah,
call it.
there you go. But I can't, like, you know, I used to write fucking songs that I could relate with my audience.
Yeah.
And now, like, you know, I'm like, well, fuck, I can't write. So I hope the rest of the band can write, because I'm
Yeah.
sorry, guys, I got married and got happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that well, for me, like when you know, when I just met my wife, then we got engaged, then, you know, when we got married, it was like, you know, I remember telling her, especially like right after, like when we got engaged, like I told her, I was like, you got to give me some time before I actually like come from this perspective on stage, because I was so used to, for a long time, it was like, you know, I didn't have a girlfriend. I was really fucking single. And so it's just me and the dog for a long time. And so, you know, so I was coming from that perspective always, you know, total, you know, loser, frustrated that I didn't have a girlfriend or had no prospects or any ability to get one. And it was like, so I communicated from that point, and that's who I was. So then when I met my wife, and, you know, she moved in with me, and we got to get, that's a whole different perspective to come from, because now I'm not that guy. Now I have to, I create comedy, and sort of like my point of view is different. So it was like, it took a little while for that to, you know, for me to sort of embrace that on stage and go, okay, this is who I am. And this is where I'm coming from on stage. And, you know, and I think it changes it for the better, in the sense that, you know, you can't remain one note forever anyway, because it's just, it just stagnates. Like I said. So, you know, I think it's good,
Get worn out
for any artist to just sort of go through, you know, a life sort of, you know, development, evolve. You have to evolution. In some ways, it has to occur for anybody to be any sort of legitimate, real artist, I think. So it's
That's pretty cool.
not
Pretty cool, but I understand. So I guess that's why I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because that was the same thing. You evolve. You really do. And then you know, and I went through like as a musician, I went through probably I'd say at least a 3.5-4 year period where I couldn't even like write. I'm a guitarist and a screamer, and, you know, I couldn't even write songs. And I was like, you know, I was like, just like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then finally it dawned on me one day. I was like, I'm not pissed off anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I have nothing to bitch about. You know, I'm not happy. I am happy. You know, I wasn't happy, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really care about the chicks anymore. I don't care about any of this. My ego went out the door when I got married.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest part.
That's part of it too. Yeah. Well, I mean, that can be good and bad too, because, like, you know, you're when you're single,
you need a
and
little bit.
your sort of drive to especially when the adrenaline hits you before show to everything.
Yes.
Like your drive to sort of like, you know, to impress the, you know, the girls or whatever, to like
Becomes a little addicting.
Yeah, it's kind of how you, I mean, as a comic, it's kind of how you develop your voice anyway. Like, you know, before you even do comedy, you know, when you're just a kid trying to get attention, you know, and it's like,
We're all
know,
guys here, people. This is what happens to me.
it's like I wasn't getting attention for my body, so it's like, of course. I mean, it's like, you know, I had to, but you know, but then, you know, you get to a point like, you know, when I found my wife, I got engaged, everything. Well, then you stop giving a shit what they think. So then your sort of perspective is like, well, now fuck you. Now I'm really gonna be honest. 'Cause now I don't have to present myself to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you can be happy, but you can also be like, you know, still angry at the same time, because why did I give a shit what you thought before, you know, whatever. So it's like, you know, you just kind of have to, I guess, make it work for you. But
use
it doesn't
your new
always.
perspective on things.
You know, because I go through still ups and downs of like where I'm like, man, I suck, you know, and it's but I think anybody who really gives a shit feels that way.
Their art should be that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think. Yeah. If you ever get to the point where you just,
If you think you got it all, then
if you're really happy with
you shouldn't be doing it.
Probably done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys sound like 40-year-old men talking right now. So
I'm 46, but yeah.
I'm 24.
Well, okay. Well, then I'm worried about
he's
you.
old as he sounds like a fucking old guy. I don't know why. What was I have one last question, guys, because we're in this thing pretty deep.
Okay.
What was it like doing like because you did the Vince Vaughn comedy tour and all that stuff, like back in the heyday of all that? What was that like? A blast, memorable? Not really.
No. Well, it was. It's one of those things that, like, after I did, I'm glad that I did it, but I was glad when it was over. I mean, it was it was one of those things
that was huge.
It eventually got there. I mean, as far as like once people finally started, because it took a while. Like from the time we did, because that's the thing too. When you're a comedian, or at least I was. I always felt like, I was only as good as my most recent show. Like I felt like it's like I always felt like I was growing and developing and getting better. So if somebody watched something from me of mine from a year, 2, 3 years ago, I was always like, oh, man, no, I'm better than that now.
Yeah.
That was what was frustrating about that thing, because we did it, we recorded it, we did the tour in 2005, and then it took a while with all the I guess the jockeying, because it went through a couple studios and stuff like that, and it didn't come out till like 2008.
Oh wow. So
by then you're just like, man, I'm past that now or whatever, and it's like I don't want that to represent me, but that's but I think from just the standpoint of I don't know, getting on a bus with 5 other dudes, for 30 days.
Who was on the bus with you?
It was the bus that we were on the bus that Vince had bought. So it was Vince was basically in the captain's quarters in the back.
Okay.
And then me and Brett were in the submarine bunk beds in the middle, right across
so you guys
from the
shared
can.
a bunk.
Yeah,
No,
and then basically it was a huge, and
we know the tour bus
and
life.
then it's what Sebastian and Ahmed were in the front, like they had like fold out couches, so they took those, and then and it was the driver, and so it was like so it was 5 other dudes on a bus. Or
how many comics were on the tour?
4 of us, 4 comics, and then Vince hosting, and then they'd usually have like a guest star, like it was somebody from like Keir O'Donnell from Wedding Crashers, or some other guy, like I remember we had Dwight Yoakam in Bakersfield, which was cool. Yeah, we did a scene from Sling Blade on stage, actually. Me and him.
Really?
Yeah, it was fun. But
I got to see Dwight.
Dwight was a cool guy.
He was really cool.
That's awesome.
And like experiences like that was really cool.
Yeah,
it was one of those things. It was just I'm somebody who's like that's why I did, one of the reasons why I don't like the road and try. That's why I took the Vegas opportunity when I did. Was I'm somebody who's like, I really like to, go back home to my own bed at the end of every day, whether, so
even at that point in time before you're married and everything.
Yeah, even then I was just, I didn't even have a dog then. I was just like, just a lonely dude,
homebody.
And I just, and at the time too, I was also, it took me a few years to sort of come into my own, like at the Comedy Store in LA. So I was finally at the point where I got spots every night there. So it was every time I would leave town, I felt like I was missing out on all that, just being in that atmosphere,
like being in your comfortability,
comfortable zone, and just where the comedy action was. And so in that sense, it was like I was a little bit hesitant to even agree to go on that tour, and then we we finally got to the day we were leaving, and it was like, all right, guess we're doing this. And so it was just just from the perspective of just the just to get piling into a bus for 30 days, and it was exhausting. So it was.
How many shows did you do in that?
We did 30 days, 30 shows. Cause I remember
Wow.
we had
That's
one
intense.
schedule. It was like, we did Dallas on like a Friday and we were supposed to go to, I want to say it was like Beaumont, Texas.
Okay.
This was right around the time, like, it was after Katrina, but,
Okay.
but like the next, like Hurricane Rita was coming. It was like,
Okay.
still like, it was
Yeah.
bad at the time as far as weather. and
Tore
that.
up down there.
Yeah, in that region. So we were supposed to go to Beaumont the next night, and that got canceled because they had hurricane issues. So instead of we didn't take the day off, we did a fucking matinee. I remember the next day in Dallas. So we
Jesus.
still did 30 days, 30 shows. So it was a grind and
Exhausting, I'm sure.
Man. So it's just like. But it's one of those things that, when you're done with it and you look back, it's sort of, your body, your work, your career. It's just, it's like, oh, it's cool. I'm glad
Thankful
I did that.
for it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like while it was happening, I'm like, oh, fuck
Did
this.
that really did that really like spike your career at all? Yes, no.
Not really.
No.
It's one of those things that,
At that time, you guys were a bunch of up and coming
yeah,
comics.
and we were all that was kind of what we were all hoping to do, and that was sort of the trade off in it, because when there were, let's just say we didn't make a lot of money from that, and it's one of those things that like but the trade off was like, oh well, we're gonna get all this exposure, it's gonna be a really big thing, and so we're all kind of waiting for it to come out and to hit. And we're like, come on, when's this going to come out? And then, people don't really go to see documentaries of any kind at the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it really, pulled in a big numbers there. So it took a while.
And you said it took 3 years, right? From time you
Took two and a-
actually
yeah, but
did
2.5
it?
years.
2.5
It
years?
was like, yeah. So by the time it came out and, its box office takes were pretty dismal. So it was like, by the time it hit like home video
Mm-hmm.
and whether I don't know what cable or satellite channels it went on, I don't know, it was Epix or HBO or whatever, I don't know, but once people started to see it in that, or maybe they saw it online too, that's when it started. People come up to me after shows like, oh man, I remember seeing you in Vince Vaughn's Wild West, and but by then honestly it was like probably the biggest thing for me career wise was Chelsea Lately. Which I didn't think it would be going in. I said I'm doing this panel show on E, but that was really what it drove my numbers up as far as fans and
Really?
notoriety. Yeah, big because it gave me a lot of female fans.
Okay.
I mean, my wife's one of them actually, but because she never would have known me if it wasn't for that show.
Really?
Not at all. Yeah.
Oh,
that's why,
wow.
Yes. But
We have a rule in our band: never marry the groupies.
well, my band doesn't have that rule, so. But it was that show. So by the time people saw the Wild West thing, other things had come along anyway. So it was just, it was, but it still was something though that it didn't hurt.
Yeah,
As far as so
that's pretty cool. Because now looking back on it, I guess after hearing you say that, I think about it. I'm like, that makes sense. But at this day and age, looking back on it, you're like, holy fuck, that was Vince Vaughn, that was Bret Ernst, that was Cap, that was like, you guys were all huge. You're all huge now. But I guess at that point in time, it would have been not the same.
It was one of those things. Well, I mean, because we were still trying to make a name for ourselves in comedy.
Because even what's his name was on it, Happy.
Oh, yeah. John Favreau.
Yeah, he was in there a few times.
Yeah. So John Favreau, he's fucking huge now. You know, so you look back on that now, I'm like, that's insane.
And I remember, there's a few of those, nights whether it was on tour or when we did stuff afterward. Because I remember we did a thing here in Vegas. We did, I think it was a Mandalay. They wanted to shoot some pickup stuff for it. It was probably almost a year after the tour itself, and and all of us were here in Vegas. And I think Favreau came to that because I remember us all going out to dinner or something like that. Well, Peter Billingsley was part of it too. He was a producer on it, the guy from Christmas Story.
Okay.
And he was one of the guys grinding out with us every day. I mean, he was on the crew bus behind us, and that place I heard was like Attica. But it was so it was but it was just one of those things that while it was happening, it was just the experience was it sucked. It's kind of, it was just a grind. But once you're done with it, you look back, you're like, oh man, that's one of those
something
cool
to be
things
proud
I
of.
did, man. Look at that. Yeah. It's cool to be in that group. So
Absolutely, yeah.
You've had a crazy from start to finish, or from start to now, I guess I should say, career.
I can't afford to finish.
You've gone,
keep going.
You've gone through a lot, and I will honestly say, like, I think all of your specials, I think all of your comedy's hilarious.
Thank you, brother.
So
Appreciate
I did for me meeting you today and everything like that was actually really awesome.
It's an honor for us.
Man, thank you guys. It's an honor for me to be here. I appreciate it, man.
It
was a good time.
Well, when we shot that message out, we didn't think we were gonna get a response. So I appreciate you coming down and hanging out with us.
Well, you caught me on a good day or something. I don't know, but no, man, I appreciate you guys asking me. And when my wife showed me your message, I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. So it was.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
good
you.
talking to you guys, and
absolutely hope you had
I'd
fun.
love to come back.
So do you got
I'm
anything?
in town. So,
anything you want to plug? Like, what do you got coming up?
Well, let's see here. I'm going to Tampa Side Splitters in a couple weeks. That's first week of February. Check my website, johncaparulo.com. I'm on the show you were talking about earlier. What's it called again?
Comedy Bites.
Comedy Bites. This Saturday. So what's Saturday? Is that January 29th? Is that 29th? Yeah.
Something like that.
Comedy Bites here in Vegas. Just Google it. And,
this is what it looks like after you've been
Saturday,
in the industry
right?
too long.
Yeah, and this is why I'm really bad at advertising myself. I told you about
Saturday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Saturday
29th.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, 29th. And it's here. And check johncaparulo.com. Check out John Caparulo Comedy on YouTube for Caplets and all that stuff. So
yes,
awesome.
Definitely check out all of his stuff. We're gonna we definitely got to get you somebody to do all this animated stuff. I'm really excited about that. You guys, if anybody out there is listening to this and wants to help out, let us know. But we got some ideas, so we'll talk more off the show. I appreciate you coming down.
Absolutely.
It's been an absolute honor, and you guys know what to do. Hit all the links in the description below. Check us out. Buy some stuff. Help the podcast so we can get more people like Cap here in the studio. If we said anything that offended you,
go fuck yourselves.
And I think that's it, guys. You got anything to toast with? Cheers, anything? Don't matter what you're drinking.
I got a thermos full of sweet tea. There you go.
Perfect for us. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Love you.